Okay, now we'll talk with Professor Ricardo Ffrench-Davis from the University of Chile. And I would like to know what inspired you, Professor, in writing this paper and preparing this presentation.
Well, I think the issue of macroeconomics and counter-cyclical versus pro-cyclical policy has been very relevant for Latin America, and the issue has been reactivated with the global crisis. What appears in some countries out of touch on economics now has emerged as a very crucial point for reaching economic stability. And economic stability is even more important in developing countries than in the rich countries, because we have to grow and with equity through time for a long period. And for growth with equity is very important the stability of the real economy. And my concern was principally that was in fashion in the economic, in the predominant economic view, that what was relevant was the price stability was the element, and was not concerned about other forms of stability. What happens with the exchange rate, with interest rates, with employment, and overall economic activity. And my concern is to look for the complementarity of these two dimensions.
So if you have the case to direct Latin American policymakers or developing country policymakers in this conference, which is not the case, but let's imagine that, what would be your main message that they should take into account?
Well, messages at different levels. This one world level, other Latin American for the region as a whole, and the national level. At the national level, one very relevant point with two lines. Policies that look into real economy, not only in the financial dimension, but what happens with economic activity, capital formation, etc. And for that, I think the main point has been in this last 20 or 25 years, is associated to the stability of capital flows. What we have had, our economies have been suffering a very intensive instability of capital flows. 1, 2, or 3 years with a lot of foreign currency, and 1, 2, 3, or 5 years with a lot of scarcity. And that is very bad for the real economy, for capital formation, for productivity, for employment. So let us introduce a significant look into this dimension. And that implies a difference in the way you do monetary policy and fiscal policy, and the regulation of the capital account. And in the domestic dimension, the other thing that took a lot of space in recent years is the creation of independent central bank, independent from the political system. And I think that they grew too independent of the system. We need that all dimensions are interrelated, and the central bank has emerged something like different of the rest of the economy. And in developing economies, we need to integrate the different dimensions. And very concrete things, what should be the targets of the central bank? And in my view, the targets should be take care of controlling inflation, but also take care of providing a friendly environment for the producers of goods and services. And that implies putting at the same level inflation, employment, and growth. And what is interesting that this discussion also has been opened in part of the developed world, and the International Monetary Fund that used to emphasize inflation and forget about the other dimension. Now he's saying we were wrong and we have to look to a more integrated way. And the international message is we need to have an intensive correction in the international financial architecture, and the discussion in the European Union and in the US on these matters is very relevant, not only for them, but it's relevant for the well-being of the Latin American people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Professor Ffrench-Davis.
Thank you.